In this video, we are going to work on the next most important topic at the beginning from what you learned in Algebra 1. And what that topic is that it's called domain and range. So you guys have heard this all year, so this should be a very easy review for you. So what we know is that the word domain means my x values. So whenever it says domain, it wants to know what the x's of the function are. When you see the word range, the range is our y values. So in this first one here, your domain is just your list of your x values. So it's a 3, a 4, a -4, and a 0. If this was on a multiple choice test, this list would be in order from smallest to biggest. But for the practice today, you can just keep them in this order. So domain is x's, so we wrote down every single x value from the ordered pairs. So if domain is x, it means range is y. So range has to be my y numbers, 2, -3, 1, -3. So you don't have to write -3 twice, only writing it once is fine because it's the same number. So this could just be the same as 2, 1, and instead of rewriting that -3, we already had it, so we can just keep it there. Okay, so domain is x, range is y. Go ahead and try the same thing with number 2. Okay, now we're going to do the same idea, but domain and range from a table. Again, domain is my x's. My x values are 16, 1, 0, 1, and 16. You don't have to rewrite them. The ones that repeated, you won't have to rewrite them if you don't want to. You can write it if it makes it easier for you. Then we have range. Range is the y values. So my range in this function is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So when looking at domain and range, some of you are thinking, like, wait a second, we did something else with this. And what that was is if it was a function or not a function. So this one here, you might be looking at this and be like, wait a second, this is not a function because these x values repeat. So in today's lesson, we're only talking about domain and range, but you are correct. If the x's repeat, it's not a function. Okay, go ahead, try number 4. Just the domain and the range from that table. All right, let's take a look at number 5. So this is called a mapping diagram. What it means is that my x's are the numbers that come first, and they go with the y's, which are the numbers that come second. So my domain here is 1, 4, -8, and 3. Which means my range, or my y's, are 5, 6, 7, and 8. Very easy. Mapping diagram. The first one is always the x's, which is your domain. Second is the y's, which is your range. Try that same idea with number 6. Okay, number 7. So this is called a discrete graph. Discrete just means it's a graph made of dots. So they're disconnected, ordered pairs in this graph. It's not a connected line. We'll look at those in just a minute. So in number 7, what we have is I'm going to put these ordered pairs on a table. So the first ordered pair is -2, -2. The next ordered pair is -1, 0. This one here is 0, 2. Then I have 1, 0. And then I have 2, -2. Okay, so I took those ordered pairs and I took them off and put them on a table. So what I know is that domain is my x's. So my domain is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. My range is my y's. So my y's are -2, 0, 2, 0, -2. So I just list my x's and I list my y's. Go ahead and try the same thing with number 8. Write your domain and write your range. It's easiest to do that by pulling those onto a table, and then from the table you can look at which ones are x's and which ones are y's. Okay, so let's move into the next piece. So now we want domain and range but we want the domain and range from a graph. So this is very, very important. So what we know is that domain is the x-axis. What we know about a graph is that the x-axis is this axis right here. It runs from the left side to the right side. So when we did domain this year, we wrote the left number, however far left it went, is less than x, which is less than the right number. Okay, so that's how we wrote domain. So that is called set notation. When we use these little inequalities, we looked at what the left number was. So if this was a graph, for example, okay, so in this graph, I wanted to know what's the furthest left and what's the furthest right. We said that if it's a closed circle, we would close off the inequality symbol. Okay, so that was domain. Range, we take a graph, but range is y. So for the range, we're going to look at our y values. Our y values go from the bottom to the top. So if I had a graph and I was writing my range, I would start at the bottom and figure out what the lowest number of this graph was. Then I'd write y, because range is y, and then I'd find the top, bottom to top. Okay? So domain is left to right, range is bottom to top. So that is called set notation. So what I'm going to show you today is an easier way to write domain and range, but it's called interval notation. So it's the exact same idea. The only difference is we use brackets and parentheses instead of inequalities. So we're going to put the left number and then we're going to put the right number. So let me show you an example to make that make more sense. So if I look at number 9, just like always, domain is left to right. So in what is called interval notation, that's how you'll do it in Algebra 2 and in Pre-Cal and any math class you take after Algebra 1. So you'll have to know how to do both. So interval notation is written like this. The furthest left x value right here is the number -4. The furthest right value is right here. It's the number +1. And that's it. You don't have to put an x. You don't have to put any inequalities, no less thans or anything. You just list what was on the left side of the graph and then what was on the right side of that graph, left to right. Okay, range is the same idea. So in range, we're going to go from the bottom to the top. So interval notation for domain and range. So the range of this, here's the lowest point on this graph. The lowest point is the number 1. The highest point on this graph is a 5. Okay, so it's from 1 to 5. And we use those brackets to show what we have here. I'll explain the brackets a little bit more in just a second. So try that exact same idea with number 10. Left number to right number. Bottom number, the bottom of this is 0. Bottom number to top. Okay, so range is left to right. Range is just the bottom number to the top number. Very easy. Okay, so let's look at number 11. So in number 11, again, domain is the left side to the right side. But what do you notice about the left and the furthest right side of the graph here? What we notice is that they're arrows. So when we have arrows, what we're going to do is we're going to write a symbol called infinity. So this arrow is going towards the left, so it's going to go forever to the left. That's the negative infinity sign. This arrow is going on this direction, so it's going to go forever to positive infinity. So if there's arrows on the left and on the right, it means it's negative infinity to positive infinity. So now if it's not a closed circle or a solid line, like if you were to draw a straight line here, you would use a bracket. Anytime it's not a closed circle or a solid line, we're going to use parentheses. Okay, so negative infinity to positive infinity. That is the domain. So now let's look at the range. The range is the bottom to the top. The bottom of this is at 0. It's not dropping below 0. So my lowest y value is 0. My highest y value is an arrow. So it's going to go up forever and ever and ever. The bottom of this graph never actually touches 0. It looks like it does, but it never actually gets all the way to this number 0. And so it's going to be a parenthesis, and the infinity sign will always get a parenthesis. Okay, so try the same idea with number 12. If it confuses you, that's okay. You can always email your teacher as well. So try your best to mimic what we did here and attempt to get this one here. So domain is the left side, which is an arrow, to the right side, also an arrow. Range is the bottom, which this one here is 0. I'm going to tell you this one here. The bottom is 0, and there's a closed circle on the bottom at 0, so this does get a closed bracket. It gets parentheses if there's no actual ordered pair there. So this one here, left side to right side, bracket and bracket, because they're closed circles. Okay, so go ahead, try number 12. A couple more, and then we're done with this week's videos. All right, let's try number 13. So 13. Interval notation, domain, left side to right side. The left side is an ordered pair at the number 0. The right side is an arrow, so it's going to go forever to the right. It's like a sideways 8 is the infinity symbol. Infinity will always have a parenthesis. Okay, range is bottom to top. Here's the lowest point, and here's the highest point. The lowest point is an ordered pair at 0, so it gets a bracket. The highest point is an arrow, so it's going to keep going up forever, so it's the infinity sign. Okay, so try number 14. 14, left side to right side. It's an arrow, so what does that mean about your left side? Your right side ends there. What number, what x value is that ending at? And then range, bottom to top. Bottom is an end point, so it's going to stop there at the bottom. Then the top is an arrow. So try number 14. Last one. 15 and 16 are much easier. So 15, domain is left to right. The left side of this graph is a -2. It has a closed circle there, so I'm going to close off its bracket. The right side of this graph crosses the x-axis at +2. Left to right. That's domain, left side to right side. Then we look at range. Range is the bottom to the top. The bottom of this graph is at -4. The top of this graph is at -2. Both the bottom and the top have ordered pairs in solid lines, so we get a bracket. And then here's the top of this graph, was at -2. Again, ordered pair, so that is a bracket. So try the exact same thing with number 16. What number is on the left side to right side, and then bottom to top. Okay? Try your best with those. That's the end of video notes 2. So you are now done with week 7. So we are now moving into next week and the following week, and then we are done. So we are so close here to the end of online learning. So I hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you all next week.